downloads. This is the alignment. This is happening on a DNA level where our body is going to be able to actually live in a different dimension whilst being here physically on Earth. The Earth is changing, the dimensions are changing, and that veil, like I mentioned earlier, is becoming thinner.
Hey everyone, so I have got the wonderful Georgia from the YouTube channel Angelic, Reiki, Silver and Gold. Georgia specialises in spiritualistic and angel messages. So Georgia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get stuck into this?
Okay, thank you first of all for having this interview with me and for all your wonderful support with this YouTube channel. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you said, I talk to the angels talk to me, God, spirit guides, our loved ones as well. They step forward, they give messages, they give guidance, they essentially give us the heads up. They can tell us what we're going through. And I believe I've got all the clears, all 5 of them. I can see, I can hear, I can smell, etc. So they'll use whatever aspects of me that they possibly can to get the message through to people. And essentially they want to spread the love. They want people to be happy, joyous. They want them to move along in their spiritual paths. Every aspect of their life is supposed to be uplifted as best they possibly can with truth and honesty and love.
And you brought this to YouTube, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. So how's the channel going at the moment, and what can we expect moving forward from it?
Okay, thank you to the 123 as of today subscribers. That's absolutely brilliant. And counting. I love seeing the numbers go up. The comments have been awesome. I love that too. And what I do at the moment is twice a month, every 2 weeks, I put the messages out there for the various zodiac signs. And as a lot of people do, it's for your sun, moon or rising. And the feedback has been great. I also do a Facebook every Friday. So tying the 2 in is reaching a lot of people, and the feedback has been phenomenal.
Well, we'll definitely tag your Facebook and your channel in the description below for anyone that would like to subscribe, to join your flock. Right, so for this episode of the Spiritual Showdown for the Spiritual Revolution, we're definitely looking. These episodes are definitely going to be based around ascensions and the opening of the conscious as well. So let's start with ascensions, Georgia. I've got my little notepad here, so we can sort of sift through this bit by bit, if you get my drift. So you've got a very interesting view on ascension and how alignments work. So maybe we should start there.
Okay. To me, ascension is humans moving straight back to God, moving so much closer to God, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's again all about the love, and we do this for the most part through our chakras, but it is a day-to-day thing as well. Alignment is coming into the place that we're supposed to be in order for us to move closer to God. But with God, and when I say God, I mean Holy Spirit, the angels, spirit guides, our loved ones, those that are on. Sorry?
Deities, the ultimate belief.
Yes, deities, yes. And I believe there's just a thin veil, and that veil is becoming thinner and thinner all the time. There are different parts of the universe that we never used to be able to fathom, or at least not recently. I believe we've fallen far from God. We have lost the love. And we're being given more than a helping hand back up to God. Yes, there were fallen angels, but I believe we were the fallen angels as people.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And I believe that we need to get back closer to God, to bring back the harmony, bring back the peace. We're on the planet that's living and we're killing it. And we need to raise ourselves, raise our vibrations, become as best a human being as we possibly can. And I don't mean perfect, because we're here to learn lessons, but we're supposed to do this in such a loving way that we get closer to God and we can heal ourselves, we can heal the planet and live in harmony.
I totally agree with what you're saying about the earth and the planet. I mean, I always believe as humans, as a species, we, you know, you think of extraterrestrial kind of beings that have these connections to their planet. You know, I know a lot of people could call them tall tales, but I do think there's no smoke without fire. And I don't think humans are any different. I believe humans as a species are supposed to be connected to their planet.
Yes.
Through energy. I mean, you look at how the pyramids came about and things like that in ancient Egyptians. I mean, from what I can gather, they used those pyramids as a source for energy.
Yes.
A power source for energy, you know what I mean? And it's sort of like, it's the same Stonehenge, really. It's true belief, really, that there are energy grid lines that run throughout the earth, and we do have the ability to tap into those energy lines. So it's really interesting that you do sort of understand about the earth as well. So let's move forward to divine interventions.
I think, especially in what you were saying before, as well as the question that you're asking, the key word is energy.
Yeah.
And once we become tuned to ourselves as we're truly supposed to be, which can be really tough considering the world that we're living in and the day-to-day that we have to do. Once we become in tuned, then divine intervention is that much easier. For instance, God uses me as a channel. And that's because I have cleared certain energies. I have to continuously clear their energies. And sometimes I'm a human being, I'm not very good at it, right? But there are other times when I am. And when those energies are cleared and the channel is clear, it's that, again, it's that link between the divine and us, which is always there anyway. Once we become in tuned, that slap, and I've had plenty of them. You're not listening, girl. You're not listening. Move into this direction, right? I've had those, and I've learned over time, especially today, for some reason, it has been absolutely phenomenal. The synchronicities, which is the shifting again, the signposts, the flagging, the pointing. Lots of people talk about the angel numbers, for instance. All of that is the divine talking to us and moving us into alignment, into the place where we can go ahead and fulfill the contracts that we're here to do, live the life that we're supposed to do it as joyously as we possibly can, and spread the love.
So in other words, the divine intervention is a little bit like Cluedo. They drop the hints, they drop the clues, and you go and follow it to where they think you need to go.
Yes, and they do that considering at the same time that we've got free will, which is absolutely amazing, because we can choose not to follow those signs and clues. And after a while, we will get to our designated points anyway. It's just that, are we going to take the detour? Are we going to take the long way around? And yes, I've done that, and it's not so scenic. It's got plenty of lessons, but not scenic. Or are we just going to hurry up, get to the designated point, and move to the next one? Yeah. It is like Cluedo. It's like one of those adventure programs that you see as well, when they go and get to the next point, the checkpoint, pick up whatever trophy or treasure, and then move on to the next one. And it's an adventure. It is life, and it is fun. We just need to choose what we want to do. What do we want to experience in the meantime? Everyone that comes into our lives, the positive, the negative, the good, the not so good, are there to go ahead and help us move forward on this path. And the energies are there to teach us as well. Are we going to resist those energies, or are we going to embrace them and welcome them? It's up to us.
Definitely, definitely. So on the topic of bettering ourselves as what I would call light beings, I think all humans have got the ability to become light beings in their own right, and uniqueness plays a massive part in that. But how does the power of healing work? You know, how can people help themselves, especially in such a divided world, you know, to heal from these low vibrations and low energy that most of us actually emit ourselves?
Well, I've done to myself. I've been a naughty girl. I am a naughty girl, and I've learnt the lessons.
We all are.
And,
we've all been there.
yeah. And the best thing to do is to accept the low vibration for what it is and not stay there. We've got to move on. Once we accept a lesson and we've learnt it as best we can, we will move on. And sometimes, like, life is like a spiral. Fibonacci's spiral. We will come back to the same lesson somewhere along the line as a test. What did you learn? What did you learn the last time? What aspect of it are you going to look at this time? How are you going to take it further? Because the closer we get to God in this spiral, and God is always moving towards us as well, and the angels work with their energies in spirals as well around us via our chakras, etc. But as we're moving through life and we're learning, we'll find that we've got choices and we can make better choices, and that it's okay to fail. And moving higher in our vibration, we become more loving towards ourselves, thereby becoming more loving towards others, and vice versa. And that high vibration, you eventually leave the low vibration behind. Yes, you will have bad days. Who doesn't, you know? But at the same time, you become more open-hearted and more open-minded. And living in the heart center is a phenomenal way forward, because that's where the forgiveness is. Once we learn that's an aspect of love, it's like looking at a crystal, multifaceted crystal. That's what we are. And that's what love is. If we open our heart chakras, if we allow God and the angels in, they effectively do the rest, because they make it so much easier for us to be accepting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to punish themselves, very much emotional. Yeah, when it comes to healing and self-preservation more than anything.
Healing and self-preservation. You ask some blooming good questions, Kay.
I really do, don't I? I don't make this easy.
No, that's good. That's good. No, don't make it easy. Self-preservation and healing. Well, that's what we're here to live for ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah.
If we don't live for ourselves, if we don't live our life as best we can, and to the fullness that we can, what are we here for? And you either choose to get up and fight or not. Just choose to move forward or not. Now, it's okay to stay in that vibration of being depressed and anxious for a time. And I've actually been diagnosed as depressed and anxious. And depression comes in many forms. It is a low vibration. It can be due to hormones. It can be due to situations, life, all kinds of things. It can be to do with chemicals in the brains that's got nothing to do with hormones. It's what to do with it. And
sometimes it really, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's hard to channel it, how to channel that kind of energy.
And if you don't know how to do it, it's even harder still.
Yeah.
Because even once you know how to do it, it's the getting it done. And it can be a gradual process or it can be a quick process. For me personally, it's been a number of years and I can still struggle with it if I don't stay tuned to the angels, if I don't stay tuned to the divine. There are days when I can't be bothered. I know that is, all right, guys, brace yourself for this one. If it's that time of the month, I'm not going to want to talk to God and the angels in my meditation.
Seriously, I totally agree with that. When it's literally when my time's come, I'm literally like, Thomas, Angela, spirit guides, you need to back off because I'm about to crack here. I get that. I get that.
Right. And then there's this depression when your situation is pants. Everywhere you look around you, it's just, how do you raise your vibrations during that? And that's the digging deep. That's where you really call in the angels to do it for you. You're calling God to do it for you. Because I've been at such a low ebb in my life, and I felt like that was it. And every time I've been told, wait, be still, and know that you are loved. Every single time. And when you are still, especially when you're that low and there's nothing you can do, be still and know that you are loved. You will physically feel the healing. You will physically feel your hands get warmer, your head get warmer, and if you've already got ailments already, and the depression comes in many forms and it can affect the body physically, you'll wonder what's going on. Is this something else? But then all of a sudden, within about 3 days minimum, in fact 3 days maximum, you will find that you're not even in the same space that you were before. So it's just about being still and allowing God to come in and give that uplifting healing, bringing that love.
So in other words, folks, meditate the shit out that menstrual cycle.
And meditating, not as in the normal meditating that we do with full focus, it is quite literally just lying down and trying your best to blank your mind of everything.
Yeah.
I remember 2015, I was sick off work. I was on my sofa bed, lying down, so sick physically I couldn't get to the kitchen to feed myself for a couple of days. And I had no choice but to be still. Physically, I was being held down. And I focused on my breathing. And there have been times in my life when I've been so depressed, I've had to use mindfulness, which is again focusing on my breathing and taking it 1 second at a time, building it up to 1 minute, 1 hour, and so forth. And that's when the healing comes in. Because as the time ticks round, all of a sudden, you're being wound out of it again. And that's how the healing goes again, through the spiral back up, because the healing is coming down in a spiral to lift us back up. And it's funny because we're going back into the whole aspect of ascension. So we've got that ascension happening within ourselves, different ways, and without ourselves. It's happening on a DNA level as well.
I've heard this before.
Sorry?
I've heard this before.
When you'll find a lot of people get sick roughly the same time, or they'll be majorly sleepy roughly the same time. I mean, we had it not too long ago. And this is the downloads. This is the alignment. This is happening on a DNA level where our body is going to be able to actually live in a different dimension whilst being here physically on Earth. The Earth is changing, the dimensions are changing, and that veil, like I mentioned earlier, is becoming thinner. That's why so many people are becoming psychically aware. So many people are going through so many different sicknesses and yet healing through them, whereas they wouldn't necessarily have healed before. So many people can go ahead and tune in telepathically to one another. We're all becoming aware of certain things at roughly the same time, some quicker than others, but we are getting there. If our DNA is changing, we'll be able to see colours on a spectrum that we didn't even know existed. And I'm talking about what the scientists don't even know about as yet. We're physically going to be able to see this stuff, which takes us to what you mentioned earlier on about extraterrestrials. They're able to do it. And they're helping us get to that stage. And that's where the healing comes in. The healing is people talk about Atlantis, for instance. and that's just one place on earth from a bygone age where people were able to do all this before.
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that, because I mean, just for everybody that's watching, obviously during this actual sort of program, we've not really mentioned extraterrestrials. Me and Georgia had a bit of a chat actually before this sort of went on, and we were having a bit of a giggle really over she had tell them about your REM state dream this morning. Tell them about that.
Oh my gosh, that dream this morning was phenomenal, right? I was supposed to come and do this interview a couple of days ago with Kay, and it didn't happen because of what's going on in my life. And then this morning, just at that moment between waking up fully and being asleep, I've had 5 women come towards me in robes, right? And they were dark robes, and it was very long, deep neck. And behind it, they were wearing like a kind of t-shirt, just this aspect you can see. And they were rocks, crystals, beautiful colors, like greens and blues and stuff. And these 5 women came through, and the energy were that of angels, quite literally. They weren't of this world, and it's the first time I've actually right, not physically seen as in physically seen, but I've actually seen them. And the energies have stayed with me up until what, over 12 hours later. I'm excited. My day's been full of beautiful synchronicities over and above what I normally experience, and the joy and the energy and the excitement, because quite literally, we're here doing this interview. They're prepping me to do this interview. They're prepping me to do this work, to get the information out there, because we are ascending. They're working with Kay. I know for a fact they're working with Kay because she's doing some fantastic work getting the information out there. It's what's necessary at this time, because so many people are going through so much. You've got ego death. You've got dark night of the soul. You've, as we've discussed, the depression and the anxiety. As the Bible would say, as my dad, God rest his soul, would have said, the gnashing of teeth is getting worse out there. People are angry. And anger, as we all know, is not one thing. It is a byproduct of many different things, like frustration and anxiety, for instance. If we need healing, and we do need healing, if we are to ascend, we've got to know what's going on with us now and how to deal with it. And so we can put the work in to move on. And the angels are there to help us. God's there to help us. And when they came through this morning, I was like, oh, listen, I'll be talking about this for weeks. I love it.
I think it's fascinating though, because even you sort of agreed earlier on that it even though they felt very angelic, it also felt very extraterrestrial. That's how we got this conversation.
They were extraterrestrial because, to me, when I hear the angels and I get the vibe from them, they don't present themselves in the same way. They were very otherworldly, and their demeanor, their physical appearance was very similar to human beings, but wasn't quite the same. When I say extraterrestrial, I'm quite literally putting myself out there now, and I'm talking about from other worlds. And I'll say something like this as well. And I wish I had actually been brave enough to take my phone out and point it to the sky. A few months ago, near where I live, it was unusual because you don't have all the street lights. And I looked up at the sky and I saw a grid of purple lights. I know, yeah, and it was blanket skywards, as far north and south as I could see, as far east and west as I could see. And I wish I'd taken a photograph, but I was scared. I'll hold my hands up.
You would be, wouldn't you?
It was bizarre because there's no way that you'd be able to get the lights in the sky like that. no way. And they were precise, pinpoint on a grid. And this was at a time when you weren't able to be anywhere near the airports. In fact, some of the airports, like Heathrow and that, they're being shut down because of the drones. What do you call it? The big telescopes that they have, the observatories, thank you. The various observatories were being closed down around the world to people. And yet military were there.
Wow.
This is at the same, so it was quite literally a few months ago. And yet I looked up in the sky and with my bare eyes, yeah, I had my contact lenses in. I looked up and I saw these purple lights. There are other beings. There are other beings from different worlds who have come close to the earth at this time to help us ascend, to change what's going on from the negative to the positive. Now, the dark can be of use, like dark night of the soul and ego death. It makes us turn within and truly observe ourselves, love our shadow side, because we're yin and yang, and then move forward. And that ego death, that dark night of the soul, is a point in our life where we're leaving the 3D behind, where we have to go ahead and love ourselves wholly, forgive ourselves, and move forward. We tend to have a much better understanding and a much bigger, huger capacity to love once we've gone through that. But it's such a hard thing. And many people are being diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Now, with those extraterrestrials, with their energies, and I do believe in many ways, I haven't got the proof of it, but I do believe that in many ways they've actually physically intervened. Certain things that were supposed to happen haven't happened, simply because they won't allow it, because it would have been that detrimental to humanity. So I'm hoping what we do is we work on ourselves as best we can as a team effort.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that their extraterrestrials have come down in vain. It means that God is going ahead and working through us and in us, and that the love wins out in the end.
Definitely.
I believe that the extraterrestrials do live amongst us. I believe as well that what we're meant to do is get so in tune with ourselves that we are able to communicate. We can be discerning as well. We have to use the wisdom and the discernment to know who we're talking to, because in many ways, those same channels can be used against us.
Yes.
So we have to know ourselves enough to ask a question and to know the energy, to feel the energy. And they're good. The negative can disguise itself as positive in many different ways. But God won't allow that to happen. If we're with God, then the negative can they can approach, but they can't go ahead and connect, and they can't do it. There is something about being a human being, and I can't talk about being anything else because I've no memory of it if I have been, but it's that spidey sense, you know. It's that knowing, and everything else will seem like it's okay. And I'm sure there's been plenty of movies on the same thing, but there's just that one little thing that doesn't seem to be okay, and then it's all gone. And then you can rebuke it. You can send it. You can ask Archangel Michael to come in and protect even more often than not. In those dangerous instances, and they can be dangerous instances because they can actually take over a human being if they come in. And that's where, again, a lot of some people's depression, not all, but some people's depression is that negative energy just coming in and taking over.
Sort of like an influence, if you like.
Yes, yeah. And that's sometimes the angels just won't have it. Or it's like, well, look, you guys have had enough now. Now you have to move on. But really and truthfully, our free will is there to send it.
Yeah.
help of God and the angels. And the extraterrestrials, especially the positive ones, are there to go ahead. Make sure that if it's a fight, it's a fair fight. If the underdog is looking like they're getting overwhelmed, they're there to go ahead and even the score somewhat. It sounds like, I don't know, a movie.
It really does. It really does. And, you know,
comic strips come from somewhere.
that what's going on globally at the moment, I think that we really should expect a lot more interesting things to occur over the coming years, especially in the run up to the age of Aquarius. Because at the moment, as we had this conversation earlier, and I just wanted to pull note to this, at the moment we're sort of stuck in the age of Pisces. The age of Pisces can be considered as what we call a dark age, and we are moving towards the age of Aquarius, which is where things start lightening up a little bit. And as we move that, you're going to find a lot of people that are actually sort of being pushed into ascension, whether they like it or not, just for the sheer fact that if they stay in the low vibrational energies or the 3D dimensional energies that they remain in at the moment, this is egotistical, this is jealous, this is needy, this is selfish behaviors. You know what I mean? You could think of it sort of like the 7 deadly sins, which we've all committed at some point in our life, let's just be honest. But at the same time, think of it like that. I think a lot of people are being pushed into it just for the sheer fact that they are a divine intervention, as we spoke about. Divine intervention is Satan. And I always tell people, don't go against the grain. It's the worst thing you can do, because your ascension and your awakening processes are going to be so much more difficult.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I've lived it. When I've gone against the grain, life is that much harder. And you end up getting there anyway. So you may as well just go with the flow. And when you go with the flow, you're going with God. And there are times when going against the grain, it's that fight or flight thing. When you go with the flow, it can be so scary, because it's the unknown, because it's not what you're used to. And yet, half the time it's not that bad. It's always, with hindsight, it's not that bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? But when you fight against it, it's like the odds are getting stacked against you, multiplied by a million each time, you know. It's just making things that much worse until you end up crashing and burning. Things just have to happen. Then that's when a lot of people see the divine come in, crash. Oh, I can't remember that. Is it the Tower cards, Kay?
Yeah, the Tower. It's situations or circumstances, or even personal relationships built on a false foundation. The Tower's gonna fall. You need to let it fall, because it's not real.
Yeah, and that to me, that's exactly when the divine comes in and cuts it off. You've had enough. It's your awakening, and then it's like all spotlights are on you. You've got to look in yourself and at the rest of the world and make that shift.
And you can't run from it either.
No, there's no running from it. And it can be, like I said, be really, really scary. So props to absolutely everyone who takes on board that awakening, takes on board that shift.
I'd definitely say, though, to anybody that feels like they may be going through it now, or even wants to go through one, you know, if you have got the willpower to stick it out, I suggest that you all do, because you know what, and I think Georgia would agree with me on this one, you know, when you actually do get to the other side of it, it's the most beautiful feeling in the world. And
really is.
You can actually feel at peace with absolutely everything. And you're also at peace with the unknown about what lies ahead. And a lot of people fear that more than anything. They fear the unknown. You actually end up at peace with that. And that's beautiful. I feel a bit more excited about things now.
And it is the excitement of it all. And that fear, changing that fear. And it's like being unhappy and changing it to happiness. It is a thought away, you know. And like you said, being brave enough to go ahead and do it and choosing to do it. I've suffered homelessness in recent years, and I've noticed a lot of people have all throughout the world, like they've always done it, but en masse like this, suffering homelessness, suffering loss. maybe not of their home, but of their property, their clothes, their books, etc. Everything's gone white. Life has changed in an instant. And that can be daunting, beyond daunting to go through, yet you get through it for the most part. And then other times you go through that something similar again, and each time it's like moving. I've moved so many times, it's amazing. And it's not the fear of the unknown anymore. It is an adventure. What next? What next? And you start putting your hands together, and it can be a little stressy. Like moving is the most stressful thing, but at the same time, it can be such an adventure of the unknown. It's like turning the next page of a book. What's happening next? And you get, for the most part, to write. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? How do you want to experience life? And that's when the joy comes in. That's when God and his love comes in, because more often than not, we make a decision to do something and it manifests one way or another. It comes to pass from nowhere, other than because we've changed our thoughts, and our thoughts is energy and connection to God. It's all beautiful, Kay.
I get it. I get it. And that's why I'm so excited about the future. But to wrap this up a little bit, Georgia, it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed this. But to wrap this up, moving forward, I mean, we're excited about the future, but we've got a lot of people who are probably going to watch this that are very that they're anticipating the future, because a lot of bad shit's going to be coming out. Let's be honest, you know, especially the way the whole system works at the moment. We're expecting shit to hit the fan. But a lot of people spiritually are very, very nervous.
I would say 2 words: trust, believe. When you trust and you believe, anything can happen, and you're actually prepared for it. Now, you might not be prepared for it until the moment it happens, but all of a sudden, everything that you've been through in your past is a valuable resource, a beautiful experience. And everything fundamentally is love. If we trust and believe, there is an element, like I said earlier on, that love being a multifaceted crystal, we can love our way through the system. We can love our way through the changes. We're all separate at the moment, and yet we're doing something all at the same time, and it's a cohesion. If we love, we can work in cooperation with others. We can take on board any change that happens to us. Once we love and we come together. Once you're spiritual, you recognize, especially if you've been through where you've lost so much, you know that you can survive with bare minimum.
Yeah.
If you can survive with bare minimum and with love, and you can work with others, there's absolutely nothing to fear. And there will be an adventure in it somehow or other.
I totally agree. I think this is just one big adventure, and the best is yet to come. And I think that, if anything, if we can sort of spread just that little bit of excitement rather than anxiety over this kind of stuff, we've done our job.
Yes. And it's just a thought away. That changing, that it is just a thought away, just a change of thought.
It really is. Yeah, just change of perception more than anything. So, Georgia, it's been absolutely wonderful having you to do the pilot of this show. Thank you so much.
No, you should pop your collar. Thank you, Kay. You've been absolutely brilliant, and I am genuinely honoured. I really am taken aback as well.
Listen, it's a pleasure having you here, and we'd love to see you back again, maybe discussing a different topic next time. But listen, you guys, we're still going to continue doing this, and I've got a few more surprises up my sleeve as well, in terms of guests that can appear, that can talk about this kind of stuff and enlighten you all. So please do wait for the next episode. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell.